show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's June 29th, 2021, and we're talking about the news of the day. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, and it's kind of like, you know, we're getting over the hangover of Paradise Weekend and all that went on over the weekend, but we're starting to see kids set announcement dates. There's a steady stream of those about to start coming into play here in the month of July. We've posted those on the website yesterday, so those of you that haven't checked that out, make sure you do so, and we'll start getting an idea of how this recruiting class is going to come together, I would think, beginning over the next 4 weeks. There's still going to be a lot lingering into the fall. There's still going to be kids taking visits into the fall, but it will start to take shape here a little bit over the next month as kids think through everything that went on in the month of June. So, let's go right to the stories of the day today, Matt. Starting with a real interesting one, I thought, on Earl Little, Jr., obviously, and his visit to campus for Paradise. Was not registered, was not expected to show up, and he did show up. It started out that he was just going to do some individual things and light work and that sort of thing, and he got caught up in the whole fever of the event, which was obviously there, and ended up taking some reps even in one-on-one drills and things like that. You spoke to him afterwards. Your impression of Earl Little's visit to the U and how seriously he's taking Miami.
Yeah, no, it went great. And yeah, T-Rob was actually encouraging him to take some individual reps, but yeah, he definitely was caught up in the moment and said, okay, I'm going in, and he hopped in. So that's great to see. With Earl, I've talked to him a lot. I covered his dad back in the day. That's how far back I go, and I know you covered him too. There's a long way to go in his recruitment. He's not announcing anything until December or even January if he holds off to the All-Star game like he's talking about possibly doing. He's going to take a lot of visits. Alabama, LSU, Florida State. Officially, I don't think Miami will get an official visit. He hasn't ruled it out. If he was signing today, he would not be signing with Miami. That's all I know, because he's got to go through this process, right? 5-6 months. We've seen this before. Where kids from down here don't seem real high on Miami, and then a couple of weeks before signing day comes, they have a moment where, like, you know what? I'll take an official to Miami or an unofficial to Miami. Let's just take one last look. Let's make sure. And sometimes they wind up staying home. So he's not ruling it out, which is great. But right now, I'd put the chances not real good, moving forward. But Miami's in it. They're talking to him. They're building relationships. And, and T-Rob's doing his work. Part of the problem is, DVD hasn't really gotten a track record as a coach yet. He was in the NFL. He's got a great rapport with the kids. But T-Rob's really taken a big role with Earl and with a lot of these guys. And part of the job that he has to do is make them comfortable with the idea that I'm going to help you also. It's not just DVD, because a lot of these kids want to say, oh, you've developed this guy into that, or you've developed that guy into that. Obviously, a new coach, that's not going to be the case. So that's part of the problem with guys like Earl. They want to see that track record that some of these other coaches have that DVD doesn't, but should in the future. So, there's a lot to overcome.
I agree with you. I think it's a long shot, but I don't count out T-Rob. T-Rob is a seasoned coach. He's a veteran guy of recruiting battles. He's been in the SEC for many years. He knows how to go toe-to-toe in a recruiting fight. And this one he's going to be in till the very end. There's no doubt about it. So I'm not counting out T-Rob at all. Now, at Paradise, Little got to work a little bit with Antrell Roll, Sheldrick Redwine, Deion Bush. So he got a little taste of the NFL legacy of the U, which I think was a good thing. He didn't take many official visits in June. The only one that he took officially was USC. Made a bunch of unofficial visits. He went to UM, obviously, Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, among others. So he saw a lot of schools unofficially, but he's saving his official visits for the fall. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens during the season. He's supposed to go to Bama. He's supposed to go to LSU. He's supposed to go to Florida State. That would give him 4. That would leave him 1 official visit. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if he saves that one from Miami or not. And I think that'll tell us a lot. If he doesn't save an official visit from Miami, then I think Miami's out of it. That's just my personal opinion. I can't imagine that if he doesn't visit officially, that he would seriously be considering Miami. A lot of people think he's going to Bama. A lot of people think he's already a lock for Bama. So we'll see what happens. But, I think T-Rob is in that fight till the end, and, we'll see what happens. Obviously, Miami's not certainly a favorite in that race, but, I still think it's worth watching till the end, because at this point last year, you look at a guy like James Williams, you look at a guy like Leonard Taylor, we would not have said at the beginning of July of last year that those 2 guys were in the picture for Miami, right?
If you're asking me, yeah. I mean, everyone thought James Williams was going to Georgia.
Yeah, right. We thought James was going to Georgia. We thought Leonard was going to Florida.
Yeah.
So, there's always a chance that this could come back together from Miami. And like I said, I think T-Rob will be in that fight to the end. All right. So he came to Paradise with his close friend and teammate at American Heritage, Marvin Jones Jr., who us and everybody else is just assuming is signed, sealed, and delivered to Florida State. And, maybe that's the case. But Jess Simpson took his best shot at Paradise, spent a lot of time with Marvin. They talked about how Marvin would fit in at Miami. Marvin is familiar with Jess Simpson's background in coaching, his NFL time. I don't think there's any question about Jess Simpson as a coach with Marvin Jones. The big question is going to be, is he locked into Florida State because of his dad? But his mom has connections to Miami. It's kind of like a divided household in a sense. And that's another one that until it's over, it's probably not over. And he's going to take an official visit to Oklahoma in the fall. He's also supposed to go to Ohio State, Alabama, and FSU. Like Earl Little, he's got a 5th visit that has not been determined yet. And he says that he has not decided what he's going to do with that last visit. So probably a parallel situation to Earl Little, really, with Marvin Jones, right, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is going to happen is, Marvin Jones and Earl Little are sort of to me like Dante Anderson and Daniel Lyons, in that they're sort of attached at the hip. Like when I called and I spoke to Earl Little, Marvin Jones was right there with him, like just hanging out in the middle of the day on a Monday. So I do think that they might wind up going to the same college together. That would not surprise me at all. And if at the end of the day, Marvin wants to go to Florida State and Earl wants to go to Alabama, and maybe they settle on Miami, I don't know. Like they both have certainly ties to Miami. I think they're both comfortable at Miami. The big question is going to be whether or not they really trust the Miami staff to get them to where they want to be at the next level. I think if Miami can clear that hurdle, and both those guys feel like, hey, Miami staff can coach us as well as anybody at other schools, I think Miami will be right there, and it could be an answer if they can't find a school in common that they love, and they feel like Miami's right up there with whatever schools they like. Because they won't tell you they're a package deal, but just knowing them the way I do and just how they're always together, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they want to put on the same college together, and they do have some of those colleges in common that they're looking at, All
right, so both of those stories are real interesting, and I think everyone will enjoy, catching up on the latest with those guys. Another story on the website this morning is Orlando Boone offensive tackle Leighton Nelson, and this one's a little interesting because he official visited to Miami a few weeks ago, and it happened to be a weekend where they had 2 or 3 other offensive linemen in, and Coach Justice's time was really at a premium, and we weren't sure after that visit weekend where Leighton Nelson really fit in. I think Leighton Nelson wasn't really sure where he fit in. And obviously he liked Miami enough to make Miami an official visit, but we would be reaching if we were to say that Miami was in any kind of driver's seat or anything along those lines after that visit. So a couple of weeks has passed. The coaches have been grinding on recruiting, and about 10 to 12 days went by that Coach Justice and Leighton Nelson didn't really have a lot of contact with each other. So we weren't really sure if it was even still alive. Well, we spoke to Leighton, and he's now getting ready to announce on July the 4th. Miami is in his final group, very firmly. He says that the final five is Miami, Florida, Utah, Central Florida, and Duke. Okay, so Miami's in there in the final five. The question is, how solidly are they in there? Now, the period went by that there was not any contact between the two sides. But then a couple days ago, Coach Justice did reach out, and Manny Diaz reached out, and they made it clear to Leighton that they were still interested in him. In your opinion, Matt, has Miami lost all momentum here, or do you think they still have a shot to get his commit on July the 4th?
Let me start with, this guy, wherever he goes, is going to be a media darling. When you talk to this kid, it's just great conversations. He actually called me back, and he's like, I just finished eating 2 pizza rolls. What recruit tells you that, And oh yeah, Coach Justice, he always, calls me whenever I talk to him. He's always out walking his dogs and gives me a call, And yeah, he hadn't talked to him in the 12 days, but he went out. Coach Justice went out walking his dogs, gave Leighton a call. Leighton notices those little tiny things that most recruits don't even think about, and he finds them funny or interesting, where other recruits might just be like, whatever, he's walking his dogs. It's not a interesting thing to some other recruits. Leighton thinks differently. Great. I think he's a great personality. I think he's a great kid, and I wish he'd come to Miami because I like covering guys like that. I don't get the feeling he's coming because we've been doing this a long time. And when a kid tells you he took his official visit and didn't hear from a school for 12 days, that's not going to really sit very well with the kid. And, I don't know if it was a case of Miami maybe just having other priorities or whatever it is, but you just don't do that. Would you do that with a top kid? Lose your program, you call him the next day, you text him that night, hey, it was so great seeing you, whatever. So, Miami hasn't made him a priority for whatever reason. And he's aware of that. And kudos to him also, because some kids would fake it. They'd be like, oh yeah, I love Miami. Miami's great. I might pick Miami. But no, he's like, listen, they didn't call me for 12 days. As soon as I posted, I'm announcing July, whatever, I think July 4th, he told me. They immediately reached out. That's when he heard from them again. Oh, I hope we're going to be your school, But he's honest. It's refreshing, to hear a recruit just say, listen, they didn't recruit me, as hard as some other people have been recruiting me, and it is what it is. He's not upset with Miami about it, so maybe he could still wind up at Miami, because he basically told me, he said, listen, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going. He had a school in mind he was going to pick. The only bright silver lining for Miami is he knew where he was going to go. Miami starts coming on again all of a sudden, and now he's like, I may push it back from July 4th. I might not be sure. Maybe
I was going to say that.
Maybe
because if I'm Miami, I want him to push it back.
Right. If he pushes it back, Miami's in it. If he doesn't, he's not picking Miami. So if that July date comes and he announces, he's not going to announce for Miami. But if he says, you know what, I'm going to wait another month, Miami's in it. So, we'll have to wait and see. If you're a Miami fan, root for them to say, I'm not announcing after all. That's what I would root for if I were a Miami fan right now with him.
All right, so that's an interesting story on the site today. And then we've also got another one, the never-ending saga of name, image, likeness. It's coming. We're only a couple days from July the 1st. And whether anybody likes it or not, it's going to be here. And from what we're hearing, De'Ara King is full speed ahead with all kinds of plans. And I think that the majority of the team, though, is in wait and see mode. I don't know, other than De'Ara King, how many guys are going to be able on July 1st to start signing deals left and right. I'm not even totally convinced of what De'Ara King's going to be able to do. We're going to have to see. This is all such new territory. But we have included on the site today a story just about how coaches, recruits, and everybody in college football is really kind of left in the dark right now about name, image, likeness. And the NCAA is scrambling. They're trying to put some kind of policy together. The schools are scrambling. They're trying to put policies together. I actually emailed the compliance department at Miami today because I'm curious to see what the policies are. at Miami and what they've come up with, and we'll be reporting on that hopefully in the coming days. But the whole thing is just such a whole new world. And, I think, Matt, there's just confusion everywhere about what this is going to mean, what the opportunities are going to be for players, and where all this is going from July 1st and onward.
Yeah, and there's a big gray area that Miami has to be wary of. I mean, the way it is now, based on me talking to some Miami people about this, is Miami cannot set up these advertising opportunities for these kids. They have to do it themselves. No. And if it's a booster who basically just gives a kid 10 grand and puts a picture of the kid with some product on his website,
that can't fly either.
Problematic. So, there's going to be, and then the kid comes to Miami and wants the money, and Miami's like, no, sorry, you can't do that. The kid's pissed. So there's going to be some really interesting conversations these players are going to have with compliance, and some of it may actually not go. Like, you think everything's going to be so great for Miami, like some of it may not be so great if kids get pissed. That Miami, Miami says, listen, we're going to get in trouble with the NCAA if you do this. He's a booster who gave us $100 grand in the last 6 months. You can't just take 20 grand from him for him to, put a picture of you on some website. So I don't know what's going to happen. From talking to my fellow reporters, who I don't know if they know more than I do or not, but they think it's not going to be a big windfall for players. They don't think players are going to be able to make a fortune off of this, maybe 20, 30 grand for a decent player, who has a good personality a year, and that might be it. The bigger issue is going to be the Supreme Court ruling, and that's one that actually I think hurts Miami. I've talked about this before, but if schools can start, paying for all this free stuff, and it's a school with a huge budget, great. But Miami's a private school; they don't have a ton of money. They always are sort of pushing that, red line, black line, whatever for their profit margins on this athletic department. And you put a $2,000 worth of computers for every single athlete in that program. And then you start giving out internships in the summer, and you start paying kids, 10, 20 grand a summer, whatever it is that these other programs can do, apparently legally now, based on the Supreme Court is saying they can do, if that actually comes to pass. Miami can't compete with that. So NIL, great for Miami right now, hypothetically.
They can compete. It's how you choose to spend your money.
Well, they have to have the money. Well, they have to have the money to compete, and right now they don't. So if they get a ton of money, great. They have to have people donating though. Whereas, like, for instance, University of Florida, they have a huge alumni base, way bigger than Miami's, and they get money from the state on top of it as a public school. So, like, when I'm saying can't compete, it's like it's harder to compete when you don't have the money and you need to run a profit as an athletic department. They're not in this to lose money. I know fans think it's just about, playing football games, whatever. No, Miami athletic department needs to make money. They're not there to lose millions of dollars a year. That's unsustainable. So that's problematic for a private university. I think the NCAA has to figure out a way where all their institutions can get their players appropriate amounts of money based on what they do, but not make smaller, alumni-based programs like Miami suffer compared to bigger alumni-based programs that have state money as well. It's going to be really interesting. These next few years are going to be so interesting because we saw in baseball what happened, right, with all the public schools basically dominating the private schools, and we do not. If that happens in football, Miami fans will not be happy. The NCAA has to make sure that does not happen.
Well, I know that the attorneys at the U have been huddling with Blake James, with compliance. They're trying to put a plan together to oversee this. And what I think is going to happen is I think all deals are going to have to go through the compliance department because they have to make sure that their boosters are not doing anything inappropriate without question. So, I think that's going to be the start, that all deals are going to have to go through compliance and get approved. I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately there's a national clearinghouse that deals then have to be sent to at the NCAA level or something for the final stamp of approval. This is all new turf. It's going to have to be regulated. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch more stories on it, but we've got one this morning just to give everybody an idea of where things stand right now and just the confusion that different elements of this are going through. So that's what we got right now. That's the meat of the content that you've got this morning at CaneSport.com. Sure to be other things, other discussions on the message board as the day goes forward. We hope you guys enjoy it as always, and we'll be back at you soon with another Good Morning CaneSport. He's Matt Shodell. I'm Gary Ferman. Until next time, we're going to say goodbye, everybody.